Hello and welcome to the Granger Designs 100, the latest round of the JINX Shifters Super 2 V8 series. Here to call all the action with us tonight. We've got all three of us up here in the commentary box again. We've got Matt Andrews and Dave Douglas. How you going, guys?
Yeah, good, Ed. Another night back here. Street track tonight. It's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, good to be along with you guys. Good change up from last week at Barcelona where we moved to a concrete jungle, so to speak. And as we we're just saying in the com box, a track where if you make a mistake, you're going to be punished, and you're going to be punished with concrete. So looking forward to an interesting night of racing, that's for sure.
Yeah, it certainly is a change up from the wide open expanses of, comparatively anyway, of the Barcelona circuit to the concrete canyons here at Detroit Belle Isle. And we've seen a lot of the drivers so far, just been watching a little bit of their practice and qualifying, and a lot of guys making mistakes, putting wheel. There is a little bit of grass around this track, and guys have been nicking that, just touching the concrete barriers and so on, and caused quite a few of them to come to grief. There's been a couple of drivers penalised already for just not being able to get out of each other's way fast enough in qualifying. So you probably imagine a little bit more consternation during this race. It's going to be a busy one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, already before the viewers at home are able to watch, there's been 4 or 5 drivers given grid place penalties for either blocking or returning to the track unsafely. So these guys will be feeling the pinch tonight, and they've got to be careful that when they do make mistakes, they don't block the circuit, etc. That is something that we've seen a little bit of over the last couple of weeks in a number of series where drivers are pretty keen to get back onto the racing line after an incident and cause all sorts of carnage. So we'll see how that pans out this evening.
All right. So as the drivers just finishing up their last little bits of practice, just getting their lines right, the last little bits that they may be focusing on before the race, perhaps cycling their tyres, finding out how long that they take to get up to temperature and pressure, and all these other little bits and pieces that they're going to need. We might actually just go to what's become a traditional segment for us, our track trivia. And we've had one so far for all of the rounds, and this one is absolutely no different. So here is the question, guys. This is obviously the Detroit Belle Isle circuit. There was a previous Detroit circuit, the Downtown Street circuit, which hosted Formula One, IndyCar, and actually had a long history. Pretty unpopular venue. Not a lot of people liked it, but it was the scene of the final race victory in Formula One for a team, very famous team, and also a very famous engine. It was 1983, the year. What was the team and what was the engine?
We'll just go with, I'm going to throw it out there already. I'm going to go Ferrari, mate. Go straight to the top.
You think it was the last win for Ferrari in Detroit 19?
Yeah, on that circuit. That's what I'm thinking.
No, the last win period.
Oh, right. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, we're good at this trivia, Dave. We're really, really good. Look, I'm gonna throw out Lamborghini as a wild card. I've got absolutely no idea, but there's my hat in the ring.
Not a bad guess. They were kind of floating around Formula One about that time, but not correct. So
okay. Yep,
we'll
great.
see. We'll see, guys. If anybody out there thinks they know it, Google is cheating, remember. But if anybody thinks that they know it, please leave it there in the comments. You can check at the end of the race whether you got that one right. We're looking for the significant car and engine who won their last Formula One races at the 1983 Grand Prix of Detroit.
Interesting. It's not Ford, is it?
You're getting closer.
I was going to say, we're in the right city for Ford, so...
You're getting closer.
All right.
Anyway, back to the
can't
action.
get any worse.
Back to the action on track. We've got Darren Caldwell sitting top of the timesheets at the moment, 129.7. Alex Court second to him, and Brody Scott in there with a 130.058. So fairly tight at the top. Got to feel Marty Hansen's actually just popped in a decent lap, taking P2 as well. So some competitive times getting set down out there.
Yeah, and if we're looking at times from last week, I'm looking for Josh Thomas, who seems to be the one to beat. He's yet to set a time, but I think in qualifying he did quite well. So Looking for those big names to filter their way to the top as this practice session comes to a close.
Yeah, and of course, in practice, nobody's under the obligation to get out the way and let you through. So in this warm-up phase as well, we could have guys running in traffic and all sorts of stuff. But we're not too far away from the drivers gridding up now. We'll get a bit of an idea about where all the drivers are sitting. Once they start to hit the grid, we will run through that grid for you, so you can find out where your favourite driver is going to be starting this one. Any final thoughts before the cars grid up?
Just looks quite interesting. Sorry, Dave, just looking at the grid with a track I'm unfamiliar with. Looks like there might be a few people starting blind at the back of this track as the front straight's quite curved. So looking for those at the back of the grid. We had a couple of people stall last week, so if that happens again, we could see a bit of carnage off the start line.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like you said, we've got walls either side, so especially down that first sort of right-hander into the left-hander over the bit of a jump there, so they'll get loose. We'll see what happens.
All right, so we've got drivers gridding up now, so we will just very quickly run through the grid for you. So we've got Joshua Thomas starting on pole with his Fishing Motorsports teammate Josh Morgan right alongside him. James Rewalt starting out a third with Simon Chadwick there in fourth. Then we've got Daniel Hedderscheid and Brodie Scott. Darren Caldwell and Alex Court, 7th and 8th. Chris Barnes and Michael Whiting, 9th and 10th. Then we've got Kai Sloggett, Thomas Cool, Marty Hanson, Jamie Davis, Aaron Gilbert, David Coleman in 16th. Riley Curtis, Tim Mulford, Paul Warwick, Matthew Kidd, Tyson McAvoy, Hayden Harrison, Bailey Bell, long way down for Bailey. Wayne Taylor, Wade Michael, Peter Hunter, Stephen Griffiths, Tony Gaffer, Blake Urquhart, John Schultz, Benjamin Siren, Ben Morris, Mark Duggan, Tim Crowley, Dean Williams, Clay Lewis, Adam Neal, Joshua Andrew, rounding out your 38-car grid.
And we're away. Oh, great jump from the Simfinity car there. That must be Daniel Hedderscheid, that's what I thought it was. So here we goes in through here, turn 1, turn 2. Out front, that was Josh Morgan, by the looks of it, and he's made a great jump.
Yeah, he made a great start, didn't he? Right off there, put his teammate well firmly in his place. He's been almost playing bridesmaid a little bit to Josh Thomas so far during this championship, but he's definitely cleared out there at the front. I think the car you were referring to earlier on was indeed Daniel Hedderscheid there in third. Who have we got round in the background? It's almost impossible to tell. We might just keep our attention perhaps focused to the front. Oh, Hedderscheid's around. Hedderscheid got out of the turn really, really badly. I think Rubal's around as well. Yeah. So that's going to be a shock.
Oh, contact. Oh, it's jamming in there.
Well, we did call it, didn't we? We thought that this may happen.
And a safety car has been called.
Yeah, safety car, you can understand why, but just sort of trying to unpack what happened back there. Hedderscheid had actually got away really well. I was just about to talk about him actually in P3 when it looks as though Josh Morgan's actually kicked that off. Josh Morgan made a mistake, has run into the outside barrier. That's caught Hedderscheid off guard, and he's been nailed in the back by Chadwick, I believe. And we've got all sorts of stuff going on behind him. And then he ends up copping a hit absolutely head on by the number 03 of Aaron Gilbert. And then all hell breaks loose. Horrible start for a number of guys.
Wow, boys. I mean, we said it, these concrete walls, if there's an accident, if you cannot rejoin that circuit safely, you're going to see carnage. And there's just cars off all over the place. And wowee, and some big names in this race. Hedderscheid. Josh Thomas's teammate Morgan gone, so that's
Bailey Bell was in there.
Bailey Bell, Curtis gone. What a start, boys.
Your kid got involved in it as well, so it was all happening back there.
Yeah, just having a quick look through the drivers at the moment. I'm trying to find out who the most damaged of that lot were. Benjamin Siren definitely copped it quite badly. Riley Curtis, he's got a lot of damage on that car. Lots of guys making their way into the pits right now to try and effect some repairs. Hedderscheid, of course, copped it very, very badly. And I think Ruwalt got around, and he may have actually, although he's lost some positions, he doesn't appear to be carrying really any damage. So he might be okay. Yeah, his car's looking very straight. So at least he's been able to pull his way through. But he's gone from third place all the way down to 33rd. So not the opening lap he was looking for.
No, certainly not for our championship leader, mind you, as well. So he's going to have another fight back tonight. We've seen him do it before. We'll see how he goes again tonight.
big beneficiary of that. Jamie Davis, 14th on the grid, up to 6th. Thomas Cool from 12th up to 7th. So those that managed to avoid the carnage have made some large gains out of that, and will be quite happy that the carnage has ensued.
Yeah, there's a few guys that have made some spots, lost some spots. I can see that Simon Chadwick, I think, is actually getting a penalty for his part in that, which just sort of trying to watch that unfold. It didn't really appear as though he had a huge amount of time to react to what was going on in front of him. But either way, that's what's been judged. So he's going to have to come in and serve that one.
Yeah, just looking at a few of these cars. Ben Siren looks like he's got a fair bit of damage there, and also in the back flags, looks like we've got Daniel Heddershot who's got oh no, he's been cleared. So originally it was him, but they've cleared that, and the blame's been put with Chadwick, unfortunately, with that guy.
So here we are, our first lap behind the safety car. A bit hard to keep the tyres warm around here. Not too much track to move around and keep the tyres heated up. A lot of guys trail braking as they make their way to the circuit to try and pump some heat into those tyres. But as we see in motor racing, when you have a safety car like this, at the start, everyone's still a little bit nervous, a bit antsy. The tyres are cold, the brakes are cold. We'll undoubtedly see some more action once this race resumes.
Yeah, they're going to have to try their very best to keep it clean, because any little accident, any spin has got the ability to turn into an absolute pile-up. And they're all sitting there at the moment very, well, I would say patiently, but impatiently most likely, behind the Virtual Motorsport Mentor safety car. And it looks as though, just keeping an eye on that particular car, it looks as though we're going around for at least one more lap.
Yeah, it looks like it. When the safety car does come in, though, I think it will come back around those two little turns back there. So it'll go the two right-handers. First right-hander of the safety car, sorry, right back at the hairpin near the fountain. Safety car will leave these cars, and then the leader can accelerate any time after the second last right-hander.
Just thinking of Morgan in second place, he'd be absolutely spewing after such a great start and finally getting the jump on his teammate who's been quite dominant in this series, and to just throw it away and cause a bit of a pile up there after only a few turns. He'd be wanting to make amends at this restart, and but mind you, he's also going to be wary that he doesn't take out his teammate who's currently leading this race. So Fishy Motorsports sitting quite comfortable in the first and second position here, and we'll see how they can carry on for the remainder of the race.
Yeah, I mean, one of the, I guess, positive for Josh Morgan is he is still in second place and he hasn't got any damage. So,
that's right.
It could have been a lot worse when you look at some of the guys who were caught up in that particular melee there at the start. So he's got a clean car, and he's only got one car in front of him. That car is very quick, but he's only got the one car in front of him, so it's pretty much as you were for qualifying order for those two. So I don't think he's going to be too upset, although if he's certainly made his job a lot harder if he's intending to win this race, which I'm sure he is.
Pit stop wise tonight, boys, do we want to run down what the rundown here is? It the one compulsory stop?
I believe it's going to be that, mate. Yeah, for sure. Okay. And it's actually a bit of a shame at that start, because the first few corners were clean. It looked like the whole field got away relatively clean. It was only later in the lap that we saw the incident. So a bit of a shame, but like I said, we're on the safety car, bunch them up again, and we'll send them in a minute.
Just thinking with a street circuit, the tyre wear is generally fairly low. So be interesting to watch the strategy unfold tonight in terms of when do you take that compulsory stop? Do you go for that undercut? Do you stay out for the overcut? We saw last week a few drivers go for the undercut and then be eaten alive in the last few laps of the race. So something to look out for those watching as well is when you can take that stop. Obviously, being a street circuit, quite hard to overtake. So strategy becomes quite a big factor tonight.
Yeah, it's got to be absolutely crucial getting that pit stop at the right time, and then also executing it correctly and making sure that you're getting a good in lap, a good out lap. Everything's clean. The entire procedure is as clean as it can possibly be, because you know that there are going to be some drivers who are going to make mistakes, and you've got to be in a position to take advantage from that, because you can't mess it up. It can cost so dearly if you do.
We'll just have a look at our Porsche safety car to see if we're about to go. It looks like Craig in the safety car's given it a boot full. No, he hasn't. He's stopped. Looked like he was about to pull away from the pack.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to go for another lap here. So
We'll go another.
that's it. So I'm not sure the ruling. I think you can stop now on this lap, even though it's a safety car. So we'll see if anyone takes the early dive. It's a long race from there, but if you're at the back, why not? You might as well try something.
Yeah, if you're at the back or even in the mid pack and you're a bit nervous about some of the guys around you, it'd be ideal, I think, to make that run into the pit lane and take what that clear track has to offer you. But of course, running up to the back of the pack, you do also run the risk of anything that does happen is guaranteed to now happen in front of you. So there are pros and cons to both.
Just so from race control, boys, that safety car will be in this lap.
And Riley Curtis is the only one that's going to dive into the pits there. So just been keeping an eye on those guys. Riley's going to throw the dice and see what he comes up with here.
I think that might be a little bit of Riley Curtis's NASCAR experience coming into play there. Certainly pitting under safety car and making use of the cautions and the strategy that comes with that, something that Curtis is very, very familiar with. So we'll keep an eye on his progress and see if he can make a net gain out of that.
Yeah, certainly. He's only going to lose, I think, 4 spots by coming in there, and he's going to get some of that damage repaired. You might as well do it while you're on the safety car. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on it and see how it goes.
A bit like last week, Ed, your mate James Ruwalt that we were watching last week from 3rd position on the grid back to 32nd. So almost a repeat from last week where we get the excitement of watching a guy like James come through the field, but I'm sure he's not too pleased. Yeah, the Ruwalt special. Qualify high, crash, and then work your way through the field. The also known as the Ruwalt. We'll be able to watch this evening.
Yeah, I mean, if he manages to pull his way back up through the field round here, that's going to be quite some achievement because passing opportunities very, very difficult to come by, and you can wind up getting stuck behind a slow car that's just quick in the right places for many a lap. So it's going to be quite a job for him.
He'd be a bit nervous too. I mean, as championship leader, I mean, his biggest rival is, from what I'm seeing, is Josh Thomas, who's currently leading this race. So he'd be in a bit of damage control mode tonight, trying to cling on to that championship lead. There are big prizes available in this championship for the winner. He's currently leading, but he's all the way back in 32nd place. So yeah, he'll be chomping at the bit to make some gains tonight.
Well, that's right. And every spot he makes is going to be points. So I don't think he won't give up that easy. He'll charge through and charge hard, and see where he ends up by the end of it.
All right, so I imagine that we're not too far away from seeing the safety car pull off. Dave, you seem to have a better idea about exactly where that's going to be taking place, but I imagine it's coming up very shortly.
Yeah, that's right. They'll pass the fountain on the left here. Beautiful fountain. I believe it's on the left. And just as he goes around to his right-hander, he should accelerate away from the field, and then the leader can go at the next right-hander.
All right, yeah, and it looks like the safety car is definitely leaving the field behind. So Josh Thomas is going to become the safety car for a moment. He's going to be setting the pace for these guys. And at the point that he's allowed to go, he will go. And a lot of guys are going to be, just the way this track is shaped, they're going to be accelerating and accelerating as hard as they can while on a curve. So that's going to be another challenge for them as well.
That's it. He's holding. Here he goes now. He's now. All these guys are going to be on cold tyres relatively still too, so we'll see how this first lap pans out.
Yeah, we've seen them frantically warming up during that period, but there's only so much you can do by weaving side to side. But Thomas is away very well. He's got a bit of a gap, 0.6 of a second over Josh Morgan, who wouldn't be overly happy with that restart. And he's got Brodie Scott right on his hammer there in 3rd place. And, of course, he's got Chadwick, who's still got to serve that penalty. He's tucked right in there behind Scott. And then we've got Darren Caldwell up there, Jamie Davis there as well, Thomas Cool, Chris Barnes, Marty Hansen, and the rest of them all piling through these couple of right-angle turns as they head out into the middle part of this lap and more tight and twisty stuff for which this circuit is definitely well-known, notorious, one would say.
Fairly clean start, boys. Just having a look back in the field in the mid-pack where I thought it might kick off. Everyone being very courteous. Only a couple of moves made, but really, really clean stuff so far, which is great to see off a restart because you hate to see a safety car poured out after this first lap. So nice and clean at the backfield. As I say that.
On the fence, yeah.
It's Blake Urquhart.
Oh, no. yeah, I was keeping an eye on the guys at the back there because we've got some fast guys. We've got Michael Whiting and Rewalt and Odd the Lock down there, Bailey Bell at the back. So got to keep an eye on those guys and see how they work their way through this field here.
Well, yeah, we have got some fast guys buried down the field. We did sort of make mention of it earlier on when we were talking about Rewalt and how he was going to come back up. Michael Whiting, he's no slouch. He's way down there as well. Alex Court, he's been pretty quick. Let's not forget about Heddershide. He's right down the back, and he's still nursing all of that damage and is going to be doing so, by the looks of it, until the very end of this race. So there's some guys already with some very, very big battles on their hands. And speaking of one battle that's just opening up, it's now 1.1 seconds in between first and second place.
Just looking at Heddershot, boys, I've got the feeling he might have been involved in an incident there of the restart. He's getting close to being lapped, and he's missing his entire boot at the rear end. Extensive damage. Whether or not he stopped, I didn't see the incident, but he's well and truly off the pack, as looks like we have an issue. No, sorry, that's just my live timing screwing up.
I think Heddershide actually sustained all that damage in that first pile up, so he's still carrying that around. So it doesn't look like he's actually come down pit lane yet, and looks to be very much in danger of going a lap down at this early stage. So very unfortunate for him. And Alex, no, it's not Alex Court, it's Tim Mulford, another driver getting around there without a boot lid. Things looking rather sad and sorry for itself at this early stage of the race. So he's got a battle on his hands as well to get to the end of this one, carrying such a heavily damaged machine.
Just watching Marty Hansen here, looks like he's got a bit of a battle going on. Looks like we've got a bit more pace over Chris Barnes, who's in front of him at the moment. Although, as I say that, he's just pulled a bit of a gap, Chris Barnes, but earlier in that lap, they were very close together, so we'll see if anything develops from that battle.
So just having a look down further in the field, there is quite a freight train forming behind. Well, I mean, it all really sort of starts with Chris Barnes. I don't necessarily think he's holding anyone up. I think it's just because they're very, very close on pace since that restart. And it's a huge train of cars comprising, you've got Hayden Harrison in there, Matthew Kidd's in there, Paul Warwick's in there, Wade Michaels in there, Tyson McAvoy, wasn't he fast in the last round? And he's trying to fight his way up from, he's sitting 16th at the moment. Wayne Taylor's in there, Tony Gaffer, so it's a big, big gaggle of cars. They're all single file at the moment, but they're all going to be looking to try and pounce on any mistakes that any of the guys in front of them make, while trying not to make any of their own, of course, because if that happens, then they're going to come under attack from the car right behind them, and they really are right behind them. There's not too many guys out there with too much breathing space at the moment, that's for absolute certain.
Yeah, sorry, I was just watching the battle with Tim Crowley there, and he got a massive dive bomb underneath him. He ended up in the fence. Dean Williams it was, sorry. His teammate had a bit of a dive, a bit of a lock rear, and ended up into the fence down the back straight there. So that's released Bailey Bell and Michael Watting as well, and Rewalt in that battle. So that was starting to get pretty interesting back there, and Michael Watting's all over the back of Tim Crowley now. And
as we go to
the inside.
Ooh.
Be tough through there, but he doesn't do it. So he's got the pace, so we'll see if we can get the move done this lap.
So we look back to our leading pack of cars. Thomas has pulled a 2-second lead already over Morgan. Morgan with a comfortable gap over Scott. Then we have a look at fourth. Darren Caldwell holding off a fast-charging Jamie Davis. Jamie Davis all over the back of the JINX Shifter V8 in 5th position. Jamie Davis, again, like last week, storming through the field, 14th to 5th now, and he is pulling up from the back of Darren Caldwell at a rate of knots.
Yeah, absolutely, certainly is. There's some brilliant battles going on up and down the field, as has been the case all the way through this particular series. Every single race has developed a ton of battles for us. And I was just watching Darren Caldwell there. He just made a little bit of a mistake on the exit that last turn, and just
Tony Gaffer's been turned.
Sorry, Tony Gaffer's not in it.
Yeah, he just got a little touch in the rear down into that in the back straight there. Sorry to speak over you, but he's got it going. He sort of had a half spin, but got going. But it was off the bumper of Josh Andrews. Andrews, I should say.
I think the race control might have a bit to say about that one.
Yeah.
No relation. by the way. But yeah, some backs forming. But what we're seeing here, boys, is the overtaking is extremely difficult, and guys getting really impatient and just having to throw it up the inside. As we know with these cars, I mean, it's just so hard to throw it up the inside to try and get the overtake done. And I think Mulford's had an issue.
Yeah, it looks as though he has. Yeah, he was battling away with a little bit of damage earlier on, wasn't he? You know, we were talking about him, and that car looks absolutely sad. I don't think that's going to go any further. Yeah, that's done. And it looks as though he's actually jumped out of that car. So Mulford is, I'm fairly sure I'm right in saying, is our first retirement today. Unfortunate for him. I'm sure that's not what he wanted when he started.
It's a shame for Tim. He's been putting in some good results, and obviously the damage just too great. And around here, if you're trying to skate around with damage, you're going to have some issues. So unlucky there for Tim.
So the leader's actually into lap traffic at the moment. A bit of a battle. There's someone around in the background too, down the back straight, which I can't pick up the name, but I think it's a JP car. I can see the rear wing, that's all I can see there. I'm not sure who it was.
Yeah, so much going on, isn't there?
It's Blake Urquhart. Blake Urquhart. Yeah, he's actually being lapped, Blake, from an earlier incident. So a guy that normally has pretty good pace, obviously an incident earlier, and he's now being lapped already, only at lap 9 by our leading pack. So, but he would have already completed his stop, I would imagine. So hopefully Blake can keep trucking on and pick up a good result.
Yeah, very, very capable dirt driver, Mr. Urquhart. But this is a little bit of, I guess, a step out of his comfort zone as he locks up the rears again, which is going to be a feeling he would be used to, I imagine, a car getting sideways underneath him. But he gathers that up and continues along. But yeah, definitely a different beast. The supercar to the dirt cars he's normally most familiar with. But certainly having given way to the leaders and gone a lap down, Josh Thomas out the front. It's been a bit of a tour de force so far from Fishy Motorsports, as it has been on a couple of occasions so far this year. And yeah, Thomas and Morgan streaking out in front of the rest of the field. And Brodie Scott sitting there in third position is now 6 seconds off the lead of this race. So a bit of a gap forming up there.
We have an enormous battle pack forming behind Kai Sloggett at the moment in 9th position. There is, in what you call in the V8 world, a battle pack. It is a lot of drivers stocking up behind Kai, so he's under pressure, obviously feeling the pinch with his tyres. Be 5 or 6 drivers ready to make a move here.
Yeah, certainly. We've got a few drivers now. We've got Harrison and Matthew Kidd, Paul Warwick, Austin McAvoy trying to make moves here, and Aaron Gilbert, who's not too far off the back of it.
Overtaking just looks so difficult this evening. A lot of drivers just stuck under the rear wing of those in front, unable to make any moves, and if the moves have been made, they've been very dangerous. So these drivers will start to now, lap 10, start to maybe think about some strategy creeping into play and maybe make some moves here tonight.
Yeah, well, I remember Damon Hill saying about the Adelaide Street course is that overtaking is possible, but it does require the cooperation of both parties, and I think that is a perfectly apt statement to take over and transpose onto this particular circuit as well, because it's a circuit where you've definitely got to cooperate with one another, and if the guy that you're trying to overtake does not want you to go through, it can be extremely difficult to actually get that done. It's one of the reasons that street course racing is so tense, and so much can happen, and there is so little margin for error. You step offline by a little way and get onto the marbles, that can be the end of your race.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, just starting to look now, I don't know if it's tyre wear, but a lot of drivers, especially Kai and those behind, really losing the rear end on acceleration. I mean, one of the things with these V8s is when you're under pressure, you really want to get that throttle down early, but inevitably that'll unsettle the rear and cause those behind you to catch up. And a lot of the drivers really starting to lose that rear end under brakes and under acceleration. So something to look out for as these tyres start to wear down a little bit. An interesting corner through there, boys, in the grass section. A lot of drivers actually driving over the grass through that little chicane section in the middle sector of the circuit. So that's an interesting line, but if iRacing isn't providing the penalties, then why not?
And we were talking earlier on, weren't we, about Ryan Curtis, who made that early pit stop under caution. And that sent him all the way to the back of the pack, which was 38th position, don't forget. Where is he now? He's 23rd. So he's come up 15 positions, from where he was just by dint of having taken that pit stop when he did. So it looks to be paying off handsomely for Riley at the moment. Who knows how old and sorry his tyres are going to be come the end of this one, but he's definitely making it work for him at the moment.
Certainly is. And he's actually coming for another stop, so he's going to come in and get some fresh boots and try for the undercut here.
It's not a bad move.
Some practice with these boys earlier in the weekend, and yeah, I definitely noticed the tyre wear was pretty high for what I felt. Like I was only going out for some hot laps, and after about 5 laps, you could feel the tyre just go away a little bit. So undercut is definitely on the cards here.
All right, we've just got word through from race control as well that Bailey Bell, one of our really quick drivers in this series, he's stuck down there in 20th position at the moment, and he's going to have to come in and serve a 30-second penalty for an on-track indiscretion. So that's going to provide him with certainly a little bit of extra hardship he probably didn't need.
Sorry, boys, just watching a replay here. Peter Hunter, a lapped car. In the 82 car, is actually spun in front of Thomas Cool in 6th position. Lucky not to take out Davis in 5th. Davis takes evasive action. And Cool actually cleans up the lapped car. Fairly big damage on the front left of Thomas Cool's car after that hit. So that's a blue flag. And we didn't mention it maybe yet, but the lapped cars, the lapped traffic causing some issues in these guys in these tight circuits. So Hunter there, a bit unlucky losing up the rear brakes, but Cool. Hopefully he doesn't have too much damage and can keep going in his 6th position.
Yeah, that's a bit of rough luck for him, isn't it? You know, came round really just wasn't expecting to see that spun car of Peter Hunter in front of him, and unfortunately, as well as doing some major damage to Peter Hunter's car and Hunter reversing, trying to get out the way and actually losing his rear boot lid in the process. And now, of course, we've got Thomas Cool, who's still running up there in P6, but he's carrying some hefty damage to the front end of that Mustang, and as a result, one can only imagine coming under some fair amount of pressure from Chris Barnes and Marty Hansen behind.
And Barnes and Hansen have overtaken him, so Cool seems to be struggling a little, some possible steering damage and aero damage on that car.
Yeah, he's lost that position, hasn't he? Yeah, it looks as though Peter Hunter's actually been given a 30-second penalty for his part in that, or yeah, but most likely I haven't seen him involved in too much else, so you'd have to assume that he's got a penalty for that spin. So yeah, unfortunate for him, but you know, he was not having the greatest day anyway, and that's certainly not going to improve matters. But Thomas Cool now, that damage is definitely affecting him, isn't it? He's lost 2 positions in very, very short order.
Matthew Kidd, I was just about to call him into a battle there, but he's obviously taken the option to pit to get out of that and get some clean air. So he's just rolling out of his pit bay now. He'll get back out there and blaze while he can, and see where he comes out.
So we're seeing the first moves being made, I suppose, strategy-wise, lap 14. We're on pretty much at halfway now, so I think we should start to see the pit lane become quite busy with a number of the drivers coming in.
Yeah, certainly, and I'm just trying to keep an eye on Thomas Cool, of course, carrying that damage now, having lost those 2 positions, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the lane to actually get that repaired at some stage very soon, because it's not doing wonders for his pace at the moment. He's just lost 2 places. He's got David Coleman not too far behind him, you know, only a matter of 2 or 3 seconds back. Maybe a little bit more than that, but you'd imagine that he's probably going to start hemorrhaging time to those guys behind him as well. So I would expect to see that Mustang in the pit sooner rather than later. Just seeing if he actually goes for it this time. Yes, he does. He breaks off into the pit lane, and we'll see how much of this damage he can actually get repaired. Looks as though Curtis has had a spin as well. We were talking about him earlier on, and like he was just involved in a little bit of a battle with a couple of other cars there. I think Tony Gaffer was in it potentially as well. And he was right there on the back of Benjamin Siren, trying to work his way through from pit stop not too long ago. Just seems to get on the power a little bit too early, overcook it, half spin, and manages to get away with that. I think he's managed to keep it off the wall at the very least. Bit of time lost, but no real harm done.
Yeah, he's actually got that car repaired pretty well considering the state it was in earlier in the night. So looks like it's pretty well straight at the moment. And as you said, kept it off the wall and will live to fight on here.
So drivers going pretty long in this stint. We're over halfway distance. So a lot of people choosing to extend the life of these tyres and the fuel as long as they can, which is quite interesting. Obviously noticing last week the overcut seemed to be the way to go to finish on the fresh tyres. So a lot of these drivers continuing to stay out as we move on to lap 16.
Yeah, certainly is. And of course, we've got 4.1 second lead now for the lead. Neither of these leaders have come into the pits yet, as far as I can tell. We have Josh Morgan there, 4.1 seconds behind, as mentioned. And then 10 seconds off the lead, 10.2 seconds off the lead to be exact. We've got Brodie Scott, and then back to Darren Caldwell there in fourth. So getting a little bit strung out at the front at the moment. Certainly a bigger pack there in the middle of the field, but certainly out the front the gap's just extending nicely. And of course, when you're running in a good position in a race, that's pretty much what you want. You don't want to be surrounded by cars, their battles and so on, because then of course you always run the risk of getting involved in something. But yeah, I think these guys are going to be guys at the front at the very least seeming fairly comfortable at the moment.
Yeah, just having a look at Hayden Harrison here, under all sorts of pressure behind from Matt Kidd. They've been involved in an amazing battle, just watching in the background here. Looks like Harrison might be struggling with a little bit of rear grip. Matt Kidd has flown onto the back of the Bow Repairs Commodore, and they're starting to come up to some lap traffic as well, I believe. So something to watch out for here with these two as they battle in towards the end of this race. A battle for 17th, would you believe? But it looks like it's just as hot as it would be for a top 3 position.
Yeah, they certainly don't mind that they're fighting for some of the lowlier positions at the moment, because you know, when the race plays out, it can turn into something completely different. And it does appear as though Matthew Kidd has been slowed up. Hayden Harrison been slowed up behind Kai Sloggett. I'm not sure. He appeared to be going a little bit slowly there, but I'm not really sure why that was. He's certainly back up the race pace now.
And we've had an off with Ben Morris, and in front of him, Paul Warwick. Warwick, who was in 7th place, has had something go wrong here, and he's very slow with extensive damage all over the front of his car, and Warwick's into the pits. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I was just going to make a point of you can't also rule out a late safety car here, being a street track. We may even see it come out later on in the night, you know. So if that happens, then strategies are going to be all over.
Sorry to talk over you, Dave. We've had a massive wreck involving Ben Morris. He's just sort of recovered himself from that last incident coming along the start-finish straight into turn 1. He's sort of half spun, got back onto the track, and then going into turn 2 has properly spun, and in doing so has got hit by who was it actually went in there? Chris Barnes. So Chris Barnes actually making really heavy contact with the stationary car there of Morris, and Thomas Cool just winding his way through there. That's and a few guys that probably should be slowing down for that yellow flag a little bit more than they are, I would suggest.
Yeah, so we can hear the safety car has been called, as I was saying. So right on cue, we've got a mid-race safety car. So get exciting, boys.
Yeah, well, it's going to punch everyone back up again, isn't it?
I mean, this sounds a bit bad for Ben Morris, but leading to that, what happened with Paul Warwick in 7th is Ben Morris has spun and reversed onto the racing line, as we were talking about it earlier, trying to cover himself. Warwick in 7th in the Fish Motorsport Commodore has absolutely smashed into Ben Morris, and that is why we saw Warwick putting around the track slow with extensive damage. So Morris there with a few incidents, he might be hearing from the stewards.
Oh, geez, there's a car still in turn 1, turn 2 here. The car's going to have to be careful. The safety car nearly actually hit it. And who's that in 2nd place nearly got it as well? Josh Morgan nearly cleaned it up. He's towed now. So he's off the track now. But, man, that was close for Josh Morgan. He come flying around there and almost got in the wall.
Yeah, I tell you what, Ben Morris is not going to look back on that 5 or 6 corner sequence that fondly, is he? That's certainly not going to be something he's going to want to relive too many times. I don't think that's difficult.
Gee, I was just watching the replay. Josh Morris did actually get the outside wall there. He come around that blind corner, and there's a car right in the middle of the road, and he's got to avoid him and just grabbed the wall. So he got away with it relatively unscathed, but yeah, obviously that shouldn't happen.
So here we are. I mean, this strategy-wise is massive. We have 9 laps remaining and a bunched field. So those that pitted relatively early with a bunched up field and fresh tyres should see some pretty big gains out of this.
Has this cost the Fishy Motorsport guys at the front their lead? Have they been down pit road yet?
They have not, from what I've seen.
They certainly haven't from what I've seen.
Don't quote me on that.
Wow.
So this may have actually cost this dominant pair the race because, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Certainly, as far as I've seen so far, and I know that we've been watching battles up and down the field, that these guys haven't come in yet. Now, we can see Josh Thomas there warming up his tyres. Now, that doesn't seem to be something that somebody would do if they were just about to come into the pits and discard the tyres. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So we could be way off base on this. But certainly, it's some, as we say, it's going to be big for strategy no matter what.
Let's go back and have a look.
They have come in. We're hearing. We're hearing that they have actually come in.
Can confirm. Josh Thomas stopped on lap 17.
Okay.
And his teammate Josh Morgan also on lap 17.
Wow.
Well, they only just got it in, didn't they?
Beautiful work. Well done.
Yeah, it's lap 18, so they only just got that one done.
Yeah, so they must have come. It must have been on the safety car, maybe or not. Maybe the lap or so. But yeah, it's definitely they'd definitely be down the road, pit road anyway.
Yeah, so we're going to see anybody who hasn't pitted so far will need to pit now. They're just not going to get the opportunity to later on. They're probably starting to get fairly low on fuel. Ben Morris has actually just been disqualified for his part in that.
Come over, yep.
So probably you'd look at that and say that perhaps unsurprising that that's actually taken place, but still unfortunate for Ben too. Nobody makes errors like that intentionally. So definitely disappointed. So anyway, we'll see. There's a couple of guys I believe who haven't pitted so far, and I would imagine that they almost have to come rolling down the lane now. So I'm just going to keep an eye. We've got Adam Neal coming down, and we've got Mark Duggan following him as well. So those guys are going to drop all the way to the back of the field, but of course will have fresh tyres. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be enough of an advantage for them to make any real gains, and this safety car has come out at the precise wrong point for those two.
Yeah, we just heard on race control that the safety car will be in this lap, so we'll get back to racing here, not too far down the road here.
There's a lot of green and black cars in our top 5 tonight, like we saw last week. I thought red made you go faster, but it appears green and black. And our top 5 cars have all pitted. Jamie Davis, again in 3rd position, the beneficiary. Geez, he's had an amazing race, coming from 14th on the grid on a track that's meant to be quite hard to overtake into 3rd position. Fantastic drive there from Jamie once again this week.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job, hasn't he? You know, he's one of the quicker guys in the series. But at the same time, I can't help but think that that's probably had a little bit of strategy play into it as well, because that's a monumental gain to come up there from 14th to 3rd, and now with a good shot at making the top 2 Fishy Motorsports cars very, very nervous indeed, because he's a very quick guy.
Now, to give you guys an update on the Ruwalt special, he's now P15 and back in the pack, so he's got. A relatively undamaged car. He's got a big shark bite out of the left front there, but he's back up in the packs. It's all stacked up, so he's got pace. We'll see how we get through this time. It's going to benefit anyone that's going to benefit James, so we'll see what he's got here.
Yeah, I might keep an eye on him, Dave, and watch Ruwalt do another Ruwalt tonight, see if he can get a top 10 in these remaining laps.
And Daniel Hedderscheid, who we saw start out of 5th position today and unfortunately get involved in that big wreck at the start. He's still carrying around an absolute ton of damage on that Mustang, and he's only managed to recover as far as 30th position. So obviously that car not with the speed in it that he's looking for at the moment, but we're just about to go just about to go green again, and we'll see what happens off this restart.
You scared me then. I thought you'd seen an accident. I was looking around.
No, just one of those things.
All right, let's get this racing underway. Looking forward to what's bound to be a crazy 7 or 8 laps.
Yeah, so we're going to get the restart on lap end of the lap 19, starting lap 20. So yeah, 27 laps tonight. Lights are out and safety car should accelerate away from the field now. And once again, the race is controlled by Josh Thomas.
All right, how's he going to play this one? We saw him go reasonably early, pretty much as soon as he was allowed to last time, to try and get that gap over his teammate Josh Morgan. Is he going to try and play a little bit, help out his teammate Josh? They're going to want to bring home the 1-2, these two. And, of course, now they have Jamie Davis, Brody Scott breathing right down their necks. So they're going to have to work something out between them. Probably a good idea for them to do that and try to at least arrange a little bit of a start here. But Thomas is away, and he's got a fairly good jump there, hasn't he? And looks as though, yeah, everyone's sort of gone with him. Not the big gap that he had last time, but certainly, and some big moves coming. I think I just saw, Hayden Harrison making a move down the inside of Tim Mulford, who's run offline now and is going to get gobbled up by his teammate. 2 teammates, actually, potentially. He's got Matthew Kidd there and also Aaron Gilbert that are both going to slice past him. So not the start that he would have wanted, or the restart that he would have wanted, but it looks relatively clean there back in the pack. Tyson McAvoy, making a move down there, and Ruwalt taking advantage as well, making a couple of spots there in those first couple of turns.
And again, relatively clean again, boys. It was very clean, actually. The guys doing a fantastic job this week on the restarts, which is great to see. And as we say that, we've got an issue in the background. Oh, it's a Fishy Motorsport car. Whiting, he's spinning the car around. He's had an issue. Commentator's curse. I was just saying it was nice and clean, and he's had an issue back in the pack, coming in contact with another car going up the inside. The gap closed, and he's just turned him around and then received a little tap himself and spun him around at the back of the circuit. Unlucky there for Michael.
Yeah, and he's carrying a ton of damage on that car already, so obviously had a fairly difficult evening. And it's just gone from bad to worse, unfortunately.
Just keeping an eye on Riley Curtis. He seems like he's got a bit of pace. He's just put a move on Tim Crowley down the back straight, threw it up the inside over the curve and made it stick. And now, actually, he's going to be on the outside. Oh, that's going to be awkward through there. With
it was awkward.
Car by the look of that. So now he's lost a bit of time to Wade Michael, but we'll see if he can gain that back.
So a great start by Josh Thomas at the front.
Into the tie wall. He's just locked up going into turn 1. They're too hot and easy to do, and he's gone into the fence. He's got away with it relatively unscathed, to be honest, but now Tim Crowley's got a look on the outside. He's going to be defensive down here. We'll see what happens down turn 3 here. He's going to get the undercut. Get it over and under. Tim Crowley's not going to get enough drive out of there, so Riley holds onto the spot, but loses a lot of time there.
Yeah, so it looks as though he's recovered well at the very least. And speaking of somebody who's recovering well, Josh Thomas is just eking out that gap over his teammate Josh Morgan, who in turn is pulling out a little bit of a gap from Jamie Davis in there in 3rd place. Not that much of a gap, by the way. It's definitely less than 1 second. And Davis in turn is pulling away from Brody Scott. So these guys out at the front, they're out there because they are the fastest, and they're certainly showing it and pulling out for one another. So I don't think it's going to be necessarily a grandstand finish between those two, unless Josh Thomas makes a mistake, and he certainly hasn't shown a sign of making any mistakes so far in almost this entire series. So he's doing a fantastic job there up front. And just having a look a little bit further back through the pack at the moment, most of the front runners, as mentioned, have spread out, but there's a nice little battle going on in there behind Hayden Harrison, who's carrying a fair amount of damage on the front of that Bow Repairs Commodore, and he's got Matthew Kidd for company all over the rear end of that particular car. And then Aaron Gilbert coming behind. Looks like Kidd having a look around the outside. Looks as though, Harrison just moving back over, covering that line. And that big freight train of cars are going to snake their way through the tighter section of the course. But I'm sure that's not going to be the last chance that Kidd's going to have to pop a move down there. But of course, he's got his teammate right up there behind him. I'm not sure if those two are communicating or not, but I don't think that Aaron Gilbert can afford to be too nice to him, because he's got Tyson McAvoy and James Ruwalt right up there behind as well. So any mistake from any of these guys is going to result in a loss of position for someone.
Well, that's what I'm looking at, Ed. At the back is Ruwalt coming onto the back of this battle pack that we're watching with Harrison, Kidd, Gilbert, and McAvoy. He'll be licking his lips, hoping some of these guys have a tangle and make some gains into the top 10.
Yeah, it's a good-looking battle pack, isn't it? It looks feisty, looks scary, but just as you're talking there, we've got Kai Sloggett and Wade Michael, who actually, the move going on, Kid's going to have a look up the inside.
Yeah, Kid's got to run, hasn't he?
Harrison,
Yeah. Yeah, Harrison's struggling a
very
little bit with that damage, I think. Yeah, he's held on. He's done well, but it just seems that he's lacking a little bit of outright pace compared to those cars behind him, doesn't it?
What a battle pack! This is classic V8 racing. All these angry drivers. Oh, he's going to take his teammate out there, and he holds onto it. Beautiful move, McAvoy.
Great awareness there from Kidd as well, just not turning in. He wasn't quite sure what Gilbert was going to do there, but Gilbert's got to run. McAvoy's looking all over the back of the pair of them, and it's going to be as you were, although Kidd snatches the rear brakes. That's cost him a little bit of time. And these guys, McAvoy's going to get down the inside here, and while these guys are costing each other time, that's helped give Harrison a little bit of a breather at the very least to just skip away from these guys. But I'm sure with that damage, he's going to come under pressure very, very shortly.
It certainly doesn't look like this one's over by any means. He's hanging in there and looking for an opportunity to make a pass when he can.
Just up ahead, Thomas Cool, still sporting all that damage, is trying to hold off charging David Coleman behind him, who does a bit of a switchback. Doesn't get it. Cool just hanging on for dear life. I'm sure he's still struggling in that vehicle. And that's what's sort of that pack, that angry pack we were just looking at before. If Cool and Coleman keep battling here, Cool with the damage, that angry pack could start latching onto the back of Cool and Coleman.
We're going to have a mega pack. It's just going to join into one huge cluster of horrors for everybody in it. I'm glad I'm not in it, to be honest. But
cool.
Yeah, it does look as though Cool definitely struggling with that damage, as Harrison is. And looks as though Coleman's going to have a bit of a look down the inside. No, doesn't quite get it done. And that's put him just so slightly offline.
Yeah,
Turn 1 and 2, but he's going to pick that up and drive right onto the back of Cool again. He's definitely having a big run, isn't he? Cool has just got no straight line speed at all in that car, and it might be, and he does yield here actually, although Coleman's just locked the brakes a little bit. Made a bit of a meal of it, but he's got around, so that's all he needed to do, and now he can be on his way. And
he can be on his way, or now he's got the angry pack, we're just looking at behind him, so Cool. He's hit the wall. Cool is struggling, bouncing off curbs, and now he's got this angry pack of cars. We're just looking at Hayden Harrison leading the way.
Yeah, he can smell blood, Hayden Harrison.
Has the worst 3 laps remaining in this race you could imagine as a sim racing driver.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably actually just let Coleman go there because he thought, coming to the end, I want a nice quiet life. That was a mistake because I don't think he would have been aware of what was coming up behind him.
Kid's locked the rears. He's sideways out of there. Tyson's massive pressure on him. Oh, he's sideways again. It's heating up here. Kid locked the rears coming in out of that off that back straight. He's ran wide there again.
He didn't get a good run, did he? He's going to come under pressure here.
So only 4 laps remaining as Thomas crosses the line to start 4 laps to go. So any of these drivers want to make a move, they're going to have to make it soon. But that angry pack we're talking about is slowed each other down considerably, battling with each other as they appear to have let Cool off the leash.
Yeah, they let Cool off the leash and Harrison as well. So those 2 damaged cars have just managed to start pulling away from this guy. As McAvoy gets down the inside of Matthew Kidd, finally gets that move done. And he's working his way up quite nicely now. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those Jinx Shifters cars in there behind him. And he's managed to clear them. And now he's going to go off. He smells blood, doesn't he, Tyson McAvoy? He's off there in pursuit of the damaged car of Hayden Harrison. And then, of course, we've got Thomas Cool just up the road. So all the potential gain for McAvoy is not done with yet by a long shot.
Well, have a look at this for a battle pack. It's 4 teammates, Jinx Shifter cars, all line astern, Kidd, McAvoy, Gilbert, and Joshua Andrew. This could get quite spicy.
Yeah, might have jumped the gun on the old Ruwalt special because he's now P25.
He's had an issue.
Maybe he didn't pit or he's had issues. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah.
Sorry,
Right
McAvoy's
now,
got Harrison. Sorry to talk over the top of you. McAvoy's got Harrison. And Harrison's gone around now. So he's gone well around. We did say, didn't we, that something was going to happen in this particular battle. And that seems to be it. It looked as though Harrison was actually doing the right thing, not fighting too hard. And he was just in the process of letting one of those JP's cars around behind him.
Stuck in the wall there. He's got cars coming around that outside.
Yeah, that's not gone well.
He's got hit. Michael Whiting got him. He just reversed it up now, and now he gets it going.
Yeah, that's not gone brilliantly for him. He's going to be a bit upset with that, I think.
Cars holding their breath coming around there.
I'm just trying to figure out exactly what happened to get him loose in the first place. Did he get hit, or did he perhaps just get over the curb a bit hard?
Yeah, I couldn't quite see him.
No,
He had no one around him.
Definitely got hit.
He got
hit by the 47. 47 of Matthew Kidd definitely got into him there. It'll be race control's call whether or not they think that perhaps Harrison turned across, or whether Kidd had no right to be there. But either way, it's certainly cost Harrison big time.
Just with a few laps remaining, we have another teammate battle heating up for the last podium position. Davis holding off Brody Scott, who's closed onto the back of his teammate extremely quickly. Only the 2 laps remaining. Do we have teammates? Is it multi-21 here, or does Scott have a crack at the podium?
Well, with the numbers 92 and 222, I don't want to figure out what multi-order that'd be, but it's way too long for a code of communication, that's for sure.
Jamie Davis is in the wall, pushing so hard to keep Scott behind him. Smashes into the wall. He's got he's lost all his paint on the left side of his car. I don't know how he's still got a mirror left. I suppose iRacing hasn't put that damage model in yet, but Scott is all over the back of his teammate, and it looks like he's pushing him. He wants this podium position.
He's just given the wall another little rub as well, just in that braking zone. So getting nice and friendly with the wall there. But yeah, it looks like his teammate's going to have to do something very risky to get past him, and I don't think that'll be encouraged.
Yeah, you'd like to think not. I think Davis, if the team are pretty keen on a 3rd and a 4th, will probably just hold these positions as we are on the last half of the lap of the end of this race.
Yeah, Josh Thomas, he's pulled out a 4-second lead over his teammate, and he's driven absolutely imperiously today. Nobody was going to touch him. It looked as though after his teammate got him on the start, that potentially there could be a little bit of a battle there, but certainly with that little mistake by Josh Morgan, Thomas was able to pop through and has not been headed ever since. So fantastic drive for Joshua Thomas. He's flashing the lights. He's going to come across the line to win at the Belle Isle circuit here in Detroit. And I'm not sure how the points are going to work out, but perhaps that may even give him the lead in the championship.
Yeah, the bad race of Ruwalt has had, that could be the case, as for some reason Jamie Davis puts his brakes on across the start-finish line. He does get 3rd, but almost causes the biggest pile-up of the race. But well done, Jamie Davis, to round out the 3rd place.
Yeah, certainly. All right, so we've got quite a few of the drivers just crossing now. We will run through a full finishing order for you. Once these drivers actually all cross the lines, we can actually run through this for you. So just waiting for some of the tail runners, some of the guys a bit lower down the order to actually finish off their race, and then we'll have a full review of the race results for you. But until then, guys, another good race. You know, I don't think we've had a dud so far yet in this series, and this series just keeps delivering, doesn't it?
Well, it does. I mean, especially now that Josh Thomas is staking his claim for the championship. Ruwalt, with a couple of races to forget, could relinquish the lead in the title, so that's something to look out for in the coming races. But no, the racing was fantastic tonight. A lot of great battles, and street circuits always seem to deliver, and they've delivered once again tonight.
Okay, so we have got our full race results through for you now, so we will just run through them, and then we will be getting some of our top finishing drivers up in here for a bit of a chat to find out how the race unfolded from their perspective. So Joshua Thomas, as mentioned, taking another victory here in the JINX Super 2 series, this time with the Granger Designs 100 here at Detroit Belle Isle. Then we've got Joshua Morgan, his teammate there in second place, dutifully playing the backup for him. this time round as well. He'll be wanting to grab a win sooner or later, but certainly a very solid result there in P2. Jamie Davis, he managed to hold on for P3 ahead of Brodie Scott. Darren Caldwell, David Coleman coming home 5th and 6th. Thomas Cool, he managed to hang on with that damaged and off the pace Ford Mustang. He managed to get home in P7. Tyson McAvoy fought his way up from 21st on the grid to 8th in the race. Likewise, Matthew Kidd, 20th on the grid to 9th. Then we've got Aaron Gilbert, Joshua Andrew. We didn't talk too much about him tonight, but he had a great run from 38th to 11th place. Fantastic run for Josh Andrew. And then we've got Tony Gaffett and Stephen Griffiths, Alex Court and Wayne Taylor. Then we've got Tim Crowley, Daniel Heddershire, 17th in the end. Not actually too bad, considering that he was running down in the high 30s for quite a large period of this race. So salvage something there for Heddershire. And then John Schultz, Simon Chadwick, Clay Lewis, James Ruwalt finishes 21st after all that shakes out. Then we've got Adam Neal, Dean Williams, Hayden Harrison, Michael Whiting with all that damage coming home in 25th, Paul Warwick 26th. Then we've got Bailey Bell, 1 lap down, 27th, Benjamin Siren, Wade Michael, Blake Urquhart, Mark Duggan, Muddy Hansen, Peter Hunter, Riley Curtis, Tim Mulford, Sloggett, Barnes, and Ben Morris rounding out the 38th. So that's your finishing order. And I don't really know what to say too much about that, apart from the fact that this series has delivered again. It was another fantastic race. So many different types of track that we've visited so far, and yet these guys have delivered the action on every single one of them.
Yeah, championship's certainly hotting up. I'm not sure of the exact point score yet, but I'd imagine it's getting close between River and Josh Thomas there. So it's probably a bit of a 2-horse race at the moment with those other guys not too far behind. But it's going to be interesting to see what the points are like after this race.
All right, so what we might do then is we might bring in our winner, Joshua Thomas. We'll have a little bit of a chat with him about how this race shook out from his perspective, and just grab him in very, very quickly. Josh Thomas, Edward Foster here from the SimShed Broadcasting commentary booth. Another victory for you here tonight. Congratulations. Talk us through it.
Thanks heaps, boys. It was it's a trying track, and just had to keep my focus through the whole thing. The start didn't go as planned. Might need some lessons off Josh to learn how to start a supercar. But apart from that, it was good fun. It was good fun.
So that was one of the things that I was going to bring up with you as the start, because obviously Morgan managed to get away ahead of you and seemed to have just slotted in front, but not too long after that just seemed to make a little bit of an error, which not only allowed you through but unleashed absolute carnage behind. But he managed to get out of it fairly well unscathed. So good for him. I mean, were you guys in communication at that point about what you're going to do strategy-wise and everything else?
To be honest, I probably got a bit racy, and I didn't hear too much chat, and I think Josh was the same. But a bit inter-team rivalry is good. But I saw him make the mistake, and I nearly followed him in, which would have been real awkward. And then I saw him slot in behind me, but I did hear the radios blow up, so I'll have to watch a replay back, but it didn't sound nice.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't pretty back there, but fortunately you guys were well clear of it. So another victory for you here tonight. It's been a dominant start to the series. How are you now looking at approaching the rest of the races? Is it just a case of continue to do what you're doing? Are you going to potentially be looking at any kind of team arrangements to maximise your results, as you do seem to be the point man at the moment? What's your take on it going forward?
I think it's just consistency, to be honest. I've proven that I won the first 2 rounds, and then in Silverstone I had a 28th, which put me 5th in the championship. So it proves that you don't always have to win. You just got to be consistently quick. So I think consistency will be the key. And as to team stuff, I'm pretty sure none of that will happen. We'll have a chat about it, but I don't think any of that will partake.
Well, that's what we like to hear, because we want to see you guys banging doors, and so it's going to provide great entertainment for us. So thanks very much. And before we let you go, Josh, anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to before you...
Yeah, just all the fishy boys again. And well done, Josh. It's good to see a fishy one too. And there must be a little thing with the name Josh, because we were pretty quick. So yeah, good stuff, mate. And thanks heaps, boys.
Thank you very much. So that is your winner there, Joshua Thomas. Dominant again here. Didn't really seem as though anybody had the pace to challenge him Certainly not in the later stages of the races. He seemed to have it well in hand, didn't he? So what we might do now is bring in Joshua Morgan, our second place driver, the second of the Fishy Motorsports cars, and may let you do the honours with this one, Matt.
Joshy Morgan, how you going, mate? Oh, Joshy Morgan, how you going, mate?
Hey, how are we, fellas?
Yeah, really good, mate. Congratulations on your second place. Congratulations on a 1-2 Fishy Motorsport. A really huge result. You must be pumped. Mate, besides what looked like a pretty clear race for you, could you talk me through that opening lap? Because it looked like you got a good jump, and then it might have been a little mistake crept in there on the opening few corners.
Yeah, look, we've got a really good start, which is sort of a bit unusual of late. I've had some pretty ordinary ones, but it was nice to have a good start and good launch off the line. And then just coming through that left-hander, I think it's turn 5, I think it is. But yeah, just the wrong gear basically, and just cold tyres, and just ran it wide and touched the wall. And thankfully, front of the Mustang's a bit tougher and than it was on release, and yeah, we were okay.
No, well done. I mean, you know, it's a small mistake, and ultimately it's a teammate who just seems to be extremely quick at the moment who sort of took advantage of that. But your pace was great, mate. You stuck with him, and we just had a chat to Joshy Thomas there, and we were talking about his fight for a championship on whether or not he would want team orders to come into play. But he said he's pretty keen to race against you week in, week out, and just keep it going. So
yeah. Yeah, if there's anyone that I'd like to lose to, it's definitely a teammate. So it's all good as far as that's concerned. It's excellent to see JT up there and is on the pace that he's got, and we're all sort of trying to get up there with him.
No, well done, mate. I think I need to go and change my name to Josh, see if I get a little bit quicker in the V8s. But I'll think about that in the midweek, talk to the missus. But, mate, before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout-out to this evening?
Yeah, look, big congrats to JT for taking the win. Jamie Davis as well for his P3. And everyone that raced tonight. It was a really good race. And thanks to Race Control and you guys on the broadcast. And just the team owner, Mike Whiting, absolute legend of a bloke, and our sponsors, Infinity, Ignite Design, and Van Diemen Clothing.
Great.
Yeah,
thanks. Thank you so much, Josh. Well done again on your second position.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
All right, so that is your second place getter, Josh Morgan. Great run for those guys tonight and Fishy Motorsports. What we might actually do now is we'll grab in our third place getter, Jamie Davis. And Dave, if you wouldn't mind having a chat to Jamie.
Certainly. Jamie Davis, our third place getter tonight, started in P14, got his way up to third. Talk us through that opening lap, mate. You would have seen a bit of carnage, I'd imagine.
I got a good start and managed to sneak up a couple of spots, but then, just all eyes were forward trying to dodge the spinners.
Yeah, there's certainly a few of them out there, mate. What about strategy-wise? Because, obviously you come from the 14th position and then finished third, but strategy-wise, because we had 2 safety cars, how did you work your strategy tonight?
Just plain and simple, just ran the tank dry. I still had another lap and a half or something left, but as soon as that second safety car was called, I just hustled into pit lane and then thought, just going to defend for my...
Yeah, nice. Very good, mate. Well, it's a good job, mate. P3, you've been there or thereabouts, mate. So you must be sitting pretty good in the championship at the moment. I'm not sure exactly where you are, but I'm sure you do.
Looking at the broadcast, I think it was P2 at the end of last week. But loving this series. This is great.
It's good to see. As I said, I know you've been there or thereabouts. So good one tonight, mate, on the podium, third step of the podium. But before we let you go, any shout-outs or sponsors, mate?
Yeah, shout out to Dripping Paint Graphics. Thanks for your work. Sorry I scratched the paint a little bit tonight. All the boys in PSR and friends and family at home watching how he's going.
That's it, mate. If you're not touching the walls here, you're not going fast enough. But well done, mate. P3.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks, boys. See ya.
All right. Well, Jamie Davis, very, very pleased with this P3 as well. He might be. So, just before we get some final thoughts on the race tonight. We might actually have a very quick chat to Clay Lewis, who's actually here, and he was driving tonight in the split one. His first race in split one actually took place tonight. So we might just drag Clay in for a little bit of a chat and see how the race played out from his point of view. Clay Lewis, Edward Foster here in the Simshed Broadcasting commentary booth. And congratulations, made your first split one race start tonight. And just wanted to get a bit of a gauge on how the race played out from your perspective.
Not much action for me. It was actually quiet. I thought I was like maybe gonna crash in the race, but my car felt great.
Oh, that's absolutely excellent. I mean, you came up from 36th to 20th position, so gained 16 spots over the course of the race. That doesn't sound like a standard boring race to me. That sounds like you got some stuff done. So, I mean, was there much action you were involved in, or was that mainly attrition?
Well, I saw some crashes in front of me actually. I was trying to get out of the way, but I got away from it. So had a good race. Decent placing. I'll say P20 is a decent result. I mean,
Yeah, certainly.
Good start for split one.
Yeah, and I mean, in a field of 38 cars, that's, you beat half of them just about. So to come home P20, excellent work. Before we let you go tonight, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to? You're up here for your first split one start. So yeah, definitely. If anyone you want to say hi to, anyone you want to thank.
Hello, Mum and Dad.
Very good.
The old classic.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, Clay Lewis, guys, P20 tonight, made his very first appearance in the JINX Super2 Series top split. So I think fantastic work there from him.
Yeah, cheers.
All right. So before we wrap all of this up, we've got a couple of little bits and pieces to take care of. First of all, before I get your final thoughts, guys, track trivia. You guys did make a couple of guesses earlier on. Of course, the Detroit circuit, not the Belle Isle circuit that we're at the moment, the Detroit downtown circuit that hosted the first races around Detroit, the Grand Prix, the IndyCar, all of that. So 1983 US Grand Prix held on the streets of Detroit. It was the final victory for a very famous team and a very famous engine. So we did have a couple of guesses earlier on, guys. You weren't correct, unfortunately.
No.
But the team was the famous Tyrrell team.
Right.
It was driven by Michele Alboreto on this occasion, and he managed to get that team's final victory. And it was also the final victory for the famous Cosworth DFV engine.
That old chestnut.
Yeah, it started out in 1967.
Well, I was close with Lamborghini.
Close. Dave was closer with Ford, but yeah, the Cosworth DFV engine, of course, started in 1967 and ran all the way through to the 1980s, and at one point made up just about every single entry on a Formula One grid, apart from the factory teams from Ferrari and Renault. And interestingly, the Tyrrell team, which Jackie Stewart did so amazingly well for back in the 70s, been through numerous ownership changes throughout the years, and currently is owned by a group you may have heard of called Mercedes-Benz, and they're still based in Brackley in the UK, exactly where that Tyrrell team was all of those years ago. So another little piece of information for everyone there at home. So final thoughts on this race, guys. What did you make of it?
Well, I mean,
sorry, you go, Matt.
Sorry, Dave. I think we're good at that. Look, I think this week the driving definitely improved from the field. It was great, and I think the only thing I wanted to mention was just a couple of notable gains through the field. Joshua Andrew, 38th to 11th. Tony Gaffer, 28th to 12th. And Stephen Griffiths, 27th to 13th. Just a couple of guys I just noted made some amazing gains on what is a track that was hard to overtake. But yeah, once again, enjoy the evening tonight, and I'd like to thank JP Simshed for Broadcasting for putting it on, and you guys for joining me. It's always fun watching these guys get around, and another enjoyable night.
Yeah, certainly. I don't have too much to add, but speaking of gaining positions, I know that I've had late word that Jamie Davis has actually taken a championship lead after this race. So when we're saying he's there or thereabouts, he is actually there right now.
Wow.
So he's hit the point. We'll see if he can hold on to it in the future.
The literal definition of there, exactly where he wants to be. So
exactly.
Fantastic work from him. So please join us again next week. We're going to have another round of this fantastic series. You're going to see Thomas, Morgan, Davis, and all of those guys fighting it out once again in the next round of what's been a wonderful JINX Super 2 series so far. So from me, Edward Foster, Dave Douglas, and Matt Andrews, and of course our faithful director, JP Courier on the cams, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.